Hello from Shalom Acres. Today we're going to go ahead and, if you saw last spring, it's actually been about a year ago, maybe 10 months ago, we planted golden raspberries. And now it's time to go ahead and trim these all back. But I'm kind of worried because you can see the one in front of me. Like I said, it's the end of January and we've got green shoots starting to come down, and if you look all the way down, there's little buds all over it. So I may have waited too long. I'm supposed to cut these back to about 18 inches high, and then it allows them to get to all that fresh new growth and then produce the nice flowers and then additional berries. So I'm going to go ahead and do this today because I'm worried where it's at, and I'll just take you along with that, kind of where we're at. And at the end, I'm going to go ahead and try. I've done some research. It sounds like with minimal luck. Right now the main way to propagate these is they just send off runners and then they come up and you get some fresh ones. And we definitely have a lot of that happening. But with these being a little bit, appears to be life in them, when I cut these back, I'm going to try to keep these with some kind of, the woody stem part. I'm going to actually see if I can't put these in some nice moist soil and see if we can't get any of these to root so we can bless some additional neighbors and friends with some of these plants, because boy, they are amazing. If you don't have these in your garden, I would definitely encourage you to get them in your garden. Boy, they are just really, really nice. As far as easy to care for, minimal water, but today we will take you through the care that you need to do in the fall time or in the springtime before they actually start blooming. So stay with us. Thanks. Okay, so what I'm doing here is the long canes, I'm just going up. My hands are, when I do this with my gloves, they're roughly about 4 inches. So I'm looking to try to keep these at about 18 inches high. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. Between 12 to 18 inches is what our friends told us to do. So I'm going to go ahead and just clip these back. If you look and see, you can see how green that end is. It's just amazing how much life is already in these for the end of January. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll show you what we're going to do with these in the end. But I'm just going to go ahead and keep the tape rolling, or the video rolling, while I go ahead and cut through these. So right here you can see I've got a pretty big pile of just quite a few of the tops from those canes. So I'm just going to try a couple different things to see if we can get these to propagate. So I'm going to take this clump right here, and I'm actually going to go ahead in an area where we got some extra hay that's been down, kind of rotting and decomposing for the last year. I'm going to throw these on top of it, and then I'm just going to throw a little top cover on it. And then over here, I've been taking some of these canes, and I'm just putting them in the wheelbarrow. They're about 18 inches long, and I'm going to throw these in the greenhouse where we've got some nice soil. It's good and moist, and I'm going to shove those down in there, just jam them in. And then the last part I'm going to do towards the end here is, so I've still got a lot more to trim, I'm going to go ahead and just drop them as I do it, and I'm going to shove them right in the ground real close to where the plants are. It might not be the best way for actually testing it, so maybe I'll actually come over here, maybe I'll put some over here in the ground, because I'd like to do 3 different ways of testing this to see what's the easiest way. And I guess my fourth way would be just cutting them, dropping them, and letting them lay. and see if any of those would actually just root, because we are going to go ahead, when we're done with this, I'm going to go ahead and take some sawdust, probably about an inch or so of sawdust, and throw it over the top of all this. That way it's got some good material, and then hopefully that'll help keep in some moisture. So we'll take you through each one of those parts today. Thanks. Okay, so this is an area where I've got some pretty thick hay. I'm just going to simply pull this hay back. And then I'm going to take those raspberries and I'm just going to lay them in here and cover them right back up with the hay. So this is going to be our test number 1. So I'm just going to get a bunch of them and shove them right down in here. Boy, this hay's making some pretty nice soil. It's working out pretty good. Looks like I may have a few more in here than what I thought, but I'm just going to trim these down a little bit. Get these to fit. Like I said, I'm just going to cover them up and forget about them and see what happens. And what I plan on doing is coming back in a couple, 3-4 months with another video, and we'll show you how this all worked. It may be less time, depends on how well these go, if you know something would happen sooner. I figure if nothing else, this is gonna decompose and just help improve the soil. So this is test ground number 1. Now I'll take you through what I've been doing here for test number 2. As you can see down here on the ground, I've just got all these little extra cuttings that are just left. There's only so much a person can pick up, and so I'm just throwing those all around. And then, like I said, I'm going to cover this here soon. It'll be just a minute here on video, but it'll take me a couple hours to get it all together. Sawdust. I'm going to cover this whole area in sawdust. But throughout here, we have just, I've just littered this with all kinds of little pieces of the tops from cutting those back. And now you can see our pile in the wheelbarrow. It's getting at least a third of the way full. And we're going to do something with those too. Okay, as you can see, we've got plenty of cuttings from the canes. It is just amazing how many there are. So what I'm going to do now is similar to what I'm going to do in the greenhouse. This is an area that we've got covered in hay. It's been this way for 2 years, just as a weed barrier. I'm just going to shove these canes down in here because this is an area that long term we want to have some raspberries. But as of right now, we just didn't have enough, so I'm just going to shove these down in here and see if any of them start. One thing I'll share is I've been taking big ones, I've been taking the small ones, because I don't know which ones are going to do better. Even some of them that actually forked out, I've taken off the cuttings off of those, which would be kind of the branches off the canes, off the main stalk of the cane. I'm just going to try different varieties, see what happens. Worst case that happens is they bust off and they decompose. One last thing I just want to share is I'm not putting any root stimulator on here, nothing like that. I'm just just testing out to see what nature will do. Stay with us and we'll take you in the greenhouse next. Okay, so this is our final spot here in the greenhouse. Nice loose soil. I'm not going to separate these out real far. And again, I'm sure other people have done this as far as an experiment. I just don't know if, doing it in the middle of the winter versus when they're starting to sprout makes a difference. Wasn't able to figure that out. So I said, you know what, for about an extra half an hour, 45 minutes of my day, knowing that there's an opportunity that I could share this with a lot of people, if these would propagate, we decided to go ahead and take the time to try it. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? So, next thing we got to do is go ahead and put all the wood sawdust on there. After we do that, hoping we'll have the berries all happy, all satisfied, and then they'll be hopefully ready to produce an abundance of fruit. And if you haven't tried the golden raspberries, I would ask you to look those up. They seem to be pretty prolific, and the part we really enjoy about them is, you get one really strong harvest, then usually get a second decent harvest, and if you get a good bountiful rain on year, at least in our area, you've even got an opportunity to get a little bit of a third harvest. And we're a very fruit-driven family as far as for snacks and natural sugars. So that's one thing that we really enjoy, is having the opportunity to produce as much fruit as we can. So thanks for watching. Okay, you can look and see I've got these all planted, and boy, there's just a rough count. I mean, there's like 150 plus just in this little small area. I figure with what we did in all the other areas, we've got well over 200 of these just little, I guess, stems put in the ground from the canes. And I tried to put them all pretty consistent, about 3 to 3.5 inches deep, kind of like what you get with most pots that these would come in as far as in the springtime. And we'll just see what happens. I mean, if we get 10% yield, that's just a bonus. I mean, if we get 5% yield, it's still a bonus, because otherwise all this stuff is just going to lie on the ground. But I will be interested to see, whether putting them here in the greenhouse with nice loose soil, putting them out in the yard where we've had some hay for about 1.5 years, close to 2 years. It's just been sitting there. Started off with some cardboard underneath it as a weed barrier. That soil seemed pretty good, not obviously as soft as this. And then just, throwing the clippings, cutting the clippings, and then just throwing a little sawdust on them. And then the final one was just taking that, rolling back the hay and just laying them in there and seeing if anything starts from that. So I think it's a good little experiment. And hopefully in a few months we'll have some results for y'all. Shalom. Okay, we've got our load of cedar here. There's a little bit of hardwood in it, but for the most part this is just mostly cedar sawdust. And you can see what I'm doing here is I'm just simply taking it and trying to broadcast about 1 inch coverage. And right down into here, this is where I stuck those other ones in the ground, so I decided I'm going to go ahead and cover up them too. And just putting a little bit down. I think by the end of the week we're supposed to get some moisture, but we'll see what happens with the weatherman. You know how that goes. So after this, we're pretty much done. So that's how you take care of your raspberries in the winter, getting them ready for spring. And we'll let you know, like I said, in a few months we'll come back and see how these 4 different methods worked, and see what kind of percentage we got, whether it's 1% or no percent. Hopefully it's 100%. That would be awesome. What a blessing. So thanks again. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing.